Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cycle Breakers Show. My name is Sid Clevenger, and I'm one of the original Cycle Breakers, and I'm here with my lovely and amazing, beautiful wife.
Tiffany Toombs, Clevenger.
And we are the original Cycle Breakers here with you on this show to help you break the cycle and start creating a life that you cannot wait to wake up to and, ultimately just help you change your life. That's what this whole thing's about. Like, be happy and live a life that you want. In this episode, we're going to be talking about not just, we're going to be talking about nature, but not just like, oh, we're going to be talking about the birds and the bees, and we're going to be talking about trees, and we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We really want to kind of talk about how nature has become a huge part of our life, but also a huge part of our journey. And it's interesting that I get to open this episode up because nature. I used to hate going outside. I used to hate being outside. It was like the plague for me for a long time, and then especially like through college. I don't know what it was. Like I didn't want to be outside. I'd rather be inside watching TV. And now, like nature has just became part of our everyday. And obviously, we live in one of the best places for it here in the Smoky Mountains. So, this episode's all around what we classify as nature being, such a great way to walk your journey in and involve into your life. And, Tiffany has this crazy goal that we're going to be doing 52 hikes this year. Although we're
I
about
do.
there.
I did not set that goal. You set that goal for 50 hikes this year. You did.
Well, we're on track. We're gonna get back
We are
on
not even close
Montana.
to on track. It is going to be a very busy fall for us.
Yeah. And just to kind of, let everybody know as well, like this isn't, obviously we fell in love with this. Tiffany's kind of always been the nature, I'm just gonna call it because it's in and in, but the nature nerd. She's always loved nature. And like I personally didn't really understand that as much. And I think part of it was, I didn't like humidity. I didn't like funny because we live here now, but I didn't like humidity. I didn't like, really hot weather because it would just kind of make me sick. And then of course no one really likes really cold weather. I mean, Tiffany's Canadian and she moved to Tennessee. So, like come on now. But I think, at the end of the day, nature has been a huge kind of learning piece for me because it made me realize that kind of everything in nature is all of our lives kind of wrapped into one if we're willing and able to see it. And it can teach us a lot, even, especially when we're breaking the cycle and creating a new self.
So, what I think is most interesting, and one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this topic was because you had started your healing journey before we moved here, back when you were still kind of in the not really sure about nature phase. And it was
Is
when
this
we
back
got
when I still
here.
thought you were a witch?
I mean, you started healing fairly early in our journey together, but it wasn't until we moved here and you started, doing your daily walks with God outside in nature. You started doing some grounding. You started getting, that time in the trees, whether it was on hikes or on the property, that like all the work, all the healing work we had been doing came like to culmination, right? It was then that we were able to finally get you off your antidepressants, and that I know it was like a period of time, but I almost feel like in some ways you changed like almost overnight. You became a different person. You became so much more calm. And so there's actually been studies. Of course, I was going to come with studies on this one, but there's actually been studies done about the nature effect.
Well,
And I think
look
I
on
think
it.
I think the studies are called like the 3-day effect. But what they've found is that the minimum dosage of nature that you need to start feeling those shifts is 3 days. Now that's for like a complete reset of who you are. I know that not everybody has the ability to go off into the woods for 3 days and camp and whatnot, but even
Oh, but
just
they do. I mean, they could find 3 days. There's 3 day long
but
weekends.
what I'm
There's
saying is if you don't have 3 days, like something is always better than nothing, right? So I mean, if we talk about the impacts of nature, going barefoot or just like skin contact with the ground, which we know as grounding, allows us to absorb ions, negative ions from the ground, which helps support the health of our body. Sunshine helps us produce vitamin D. It helps reset our sleep wake cycles. It helps us, if we're seeing the sun rise, then that increases the amount of melatonin, our sleepy hormone that we produce. And seeing the sun set kicks off melatonin production so that we can go to bed on time. And then
No matter
when
what
we're
episode it is, Tiffany's got to get nerdy.
and then when we're always around our tech, our phones, our TVs, our computers, our laptops, all of that, when we're always around tech, it speeds up the frequency that our pineal gland, which is our third eye, works at, right? And that's part of our hormone system. When we go back in nature, it brings us back to the present moment. You know, initially you get out in nature and you have this itch to look at your phone, or you're thinking about the past, you're thinking about the future. But if you give yourself 20, 30 minutes out in nature with no tech, it's going to start resetting your frequency back to where it's supposed to be. So our pineal gland is supposed to operate at 7 hertz. Our tech operates at like 2000 hertz. And so this is also why I think we go into like anxiety and overwhelm and overstimulation, is because we're around this tech all day and it's speeding us up in our brains. But then we go out in nature and it's like, we get that slowdown again. So that's some of the nerdy, sciencey aspects of
It's
the
very
nature
nerdy and
effect.
sciencey. Let me come from the other side of things that isn't nerdy and sciencey. But you talked about it's loving, so I say that lovingly. You know, we talk about like things that you can do. So like for me, I think too, it was like if I went outside, like I didn't know what to do. I would just go outside and stand there. So I think, you know, once, you know, I didn't grow up, you know, there's the funny story of I wanted to go camping when I was like 8 or 9. And you know, nobody in my family, like even to this day, nobody in my family camps, like, you know, immediate family camps. Like that's not a thing to do. And you know, I was like 9 years old and I wanted to take like a small group of friends of mine to go camping. So I think we went like somewhere, some state park in Kentucky where I grew up, central Kentucky. And I remember we went and I was telling you about it, like I think the first time we went camping. So we went and I think we want to say we got there at like 8 or 9 at night, and we did it for one night. And then basically like we set up everything and then we went to sleep, and then we woke up and left immediately. I think it was possibly one of the most like, you know, like not something that anybody, you know, like the kids had a lot of fun. I mean, like me and my friends had a lot of fun, I guess, because we got to do it. But I think at the end of the day, like, you know, it's funny because when I was younger, like high school, maybe middle school, definitely, we had a trampoline. I remember we had a trampoline. I grew up on you know, typical like suburbia, you know, and near Louisville, Kentucky, and you know, in central Kentucky when I was younger. And we got a trampoline when I was like 8 or 9. And I remember I really enjoyed this. Will sound really weird. I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but like I would go out and I'd take blankets and a sleeping bag and all that, and I would sleep on the trampoline by myself. I know that sounds super weird, and I never really knew why I enjoyed it, but like I would really enjoy just going out there and sleeping by myself. Now, we obviously lived in a very, very safe, you know, I mean, we were in Kentucky, you know, so for the most part, I mean, it's pretty safe out there, or at least it used to be back in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, world's changed a lot, but you know, like I think, you know, I think I always kind of had the itch, but I never really had anybody around me that enjoyed the itch with me, or at least that I understood would enjoy the itch with me. So it didn't make any sense. It was just something that I would do. But I remember like our first date was so I
Our
meet
first
this
date in
girl.
Canada.
Yeah, so I meet this girl. Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about our first date in the US. But I first meet this girl, and you know, I've never like been to Canada. That's like, you know, going to Pluto for me. And you know, so I go up to Canada, and for the first time, the second time was an interesting story getting into Canada, but the first time it was pretty easy. And so I get into Canada, and she's like, "I'm going to take you to Banff." And I'm like, okay, what the hell is Banff? Like, I don't know what Banff is. And so I'm just kind of like going with the flow. You know, for all I know, she's taking me to some like Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter, like, you know, world. up in Canada. I have no clue. And I'm still in this. I got to meet her parents phase. I got to meet her family phase. I need them to like me phase. So I'm just kind of going with the flow, so I don't cause any ruckus. But then I remember Tiffany texted me, and some of you might be listening to this, and you're like, "You didn't know what Banff was?" No, I had no idea what Banff was. Okay, so we go up to
For
Banff.
those who might not know, it's a national park. If you ever see pictures of like Lake Louise, or maybe you just see pictures of Canada where it's like a crystal blue waters, that's in Banff National Park.
So Banff, from at least, and we're getting ready to go there, so I guess I'll be able to make some comparison. But like thinking about Banff now, it's kind of like going to Montana, like in a way. It's up in the Rocky Mountains. It's gorgeous. I mean, like I remember like one of the first things I said when I got there was like the air's different. Like I feel like I'm getting more oxygen. But I'd never really felt that before, right? And now obviously we live in the Smoky Mountains, so it's part of our everyday life. And for those of you that don't know where the Smoky Mountains are, it's the most visited national park in the United States. It's in Tennessee, North Carolina, northern Georgia. And now it's just kind of become part of our everyday life. But nature for me has really been a huge part of things because I'm realizing how much our life is tied to kind of the circle of life that happens in nature each day. And for someone that like, let me just throw this out there. If you've never seen The Lion King, go watch The Lion King. I mean, literally, it's so interesting because that movie talks a lot about the circle of life, and it's crazy because I was a young kid and I didn't understand it. But now, if you watch it as an older adult, you're like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense.
So I think as people go on their healing journey, there's like this desire to be more in nature. There's a sense of freedom, definitely a sense of slowdown that comes in nature. Is that what you experienced?
Definitely the freedom piece. I mean, I think when I go outside, I kind of feel unrestricted. Like there are days when I'm sitting in the house, which is ironic because all of these shows are shot with me in a room with the door shut and you're outside. But yeah, I mean, like, even like this morning when we went on our walk, right? It's like you're outside, there's nothing really holding you in. You're just sort of like, I was telling you before we started pushed record on this is, I'm reading a book right now that's written by a Cherokee Indian, and it's all about harmony and balance. So it's all about creating balance in the mind, body, and soul. And the chapter that I was reading yesterday was a chapter around like the circle of life and what and how everything, I think they call it the circle of fire or something like that. And it's literally like how everything's in a circle on this world, and things in nature, like they would talk about. I think they were talking about, there was an example where they talked about how, if you like had an eroded battery and then you like took the eroded battery to get taken care of, and how that like mercury in that eroded battery ends up back in fish and then back in your body. And it kind of went through the cycle of that. And it was kind of like how everything is kind of recycled in this world. And I think like that is something that really made a lot of sense to me because it's kind of like here, you look at it and you're like, whoa, like I learned so many lessons watching metamorphosis happen in nature that you realize that really kind of becomes what a human life is as well. And then when I was going through problems and I was stuck on specific challenges that I was having, again, this might sound crazy, but like there's so many parallels in nature. So like what I've kind of grown to learn or grown to discover is that, a lot of answers that I've gotten, or a lot of just like light bulbs or breakthroughs that I've gotten has came out in nature. And as you know now, I mean, I cycle and, I like to ride my bike around the Smoky Mountains, whatever it might be. So I might be on the bike for a couple hours, go do 40, 50 miles or whatever. And I can't tell you how many light bulbs have like just happened. And it's just like I might see something, or I might get hit by a bird. I got hit by a bird one day, and it was just literally like, whoa, like, and it's just it becomes so crystal clear. And I often wonder if it's because, yes, I'm outside and yes, the ambiance and all of that, but sometimes I wonder if it's because I actually see something, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. and actually see something happen in front of me. And that's like the way that I learn best, is not by somebody showing me, or not by somebody or me doing it, but by watching someone else do it in front of me, or watching something happen. I usually learn the fastest. And for me, like I often wonder if like that's what happens, is I'll just kind of get a glimpse of something and then I'm like, oh wow, now that makes sense. And then those dots just like instantly connect for me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to hear God and to get divine downloads when you're out in nature as well. Like, and I think, I genuinely think, I don't know that there's any research on this, but my opinion is that it's because of that slowdown, right? When our mind is being sped up by the tech, then it's really easy to go into the past. It's really easy to go into the future. It's really easy to get stuck worrying about the problems. But we go out in nature and there's an abundance, right? We're reminded that abundance is like our birthright and that it's everywhere, whether it's an abundance of gnats and flies and wasps here in the summer in Tennessee, or an abundance of wildflowers in the spring, or an abundance of foliage and
Waterfalls in the
colors in the
spring
fall.
or
Yeah.
leaves in the fall. I mean,
Yeah. It's like, and then, I don't necessarily initially get the downloads, but the longer I spend in nature, the faster they start coming through. And I'm just like, you know, oftentimes when we're on a hike, I'll have to pull out my phone and hit voice record, because it's like the words are just coming through me so fast that
yeah,
I have to get them down
the
in some
downloads
way.
that I get in nature are incredible. Like I know this might sound like super elementary to some people, but like I never truly understood seasons, right? Like until I was out in nature one day. We were walking some hike, and then I think it was a hike that we had walked multiple times. So like we had walked it last year in a different season than we had walked in it this year. And I think it just kind of dawned on me. It was like, oh, when they talk about seasons in your life, like, and obviously, like at a surface level, it made sense. Like, oh yeah, seasons in your life. You know, you're gonna go through this phase and then this phase. Like, obviously, like I mean, the common sense side of it. But at a deep level of where it was like, oh, like I get it now. Like you have to go through this season for that to happen. And when you look at like the seasons that happen, luckily, living in Tennessee, we still have four seasons, whereas when we lived in Dallas, we had two seasons, hot or cold. We're here, like we definitely get four seasons, and there's definitely specific things that happen in all four seasons. And I think for me, um, it really helped kind of show like how one season leads into the other, and just understanding that a season isn't a day, it isn't a week. A season is typically 3 to 4 months. And that, if you think about a season in your life that you are going through, whether it might be a challenge, or something you're wanting to break through on, or a goal you're wanting to reach, a lot of times it's based around 3 or 4 months. And so like all of these parallels that I would see were just like super like eye-opening for me, because again, like everything that happens in nature, like we can't force nature, and we can't force our lives in nature. So I think nature teaches us almost how to live if we allow it.
Yeah. And, there are numerous books about like forest bathing, like just going out into the forest and meditating, or just being in the presence of nature, and the calming effects, the recalibrating effects that it has on our nervous system. And I think
Oh,
that's
there's a movie. What, like if anybody wants to have their mind blown, like my mind was blown, was that what's that movie around
so it's a documentary. I believe it's called The Wisdom of Trees, and I believe it's on Amazon Prime, but there is one on Netflix as well about fungi networks, and it's about how the trees communicate with each other.
it's nuts. If you want to like think about something that will blow your absolute mind, start looking, just go to Google or go find that documentary and look up root systems of trees. Talk to each other. It's incredible.
And so this is why, the healing impacts of nature is why we also include in our in-person retreats time in nature. We talk a lot about getting out and grounding, getting morning sunlight. But the other thing that we can do in nature, like if you really want to compound your transformation, doing the 7-day nervous system reset exercises in nature will heal your nervous system, recalibrate your nervous system at an accelerated rate.
Yeah.
So tell us about the 7-day nervous system reset.
Well, 7-day nervous system reset is, 7 exercises that, you really put together, and kind of took me through initially. And those 7 exercises, again, like when you think of 7 exercises, this isn't like a day 1, day 2, day 3, do different exercises. We give you 7 different exercises that you can do to do one thing, and that's recalibrate your nervous system. Well, what's important about recalibrating your nervous system? Well, at the end of the day, when you're looking to do, kind of 2 things when you're shifting, right? So you're getting rid of the old and you're beginning a new. That's the simplest way I can put it. In fancy pantsy terms, you're, clearing out your childhood wounds, or you're healing your childhood wounds so that you can start to create a new kind of identity for you, become a new person. And to be able to start that journey, you've got to set yourself up to a baseline when it comes to your mind, body, and your soul. And the way that you do that is through recalibrating the nervous system, because that's the electronical circuit to the brain. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what you're working on or what kind of healing exercises or therapy or anything that you're doing. Therapy is a whole episode in itself. But whatever you're doing, right? Like if you don't have that, if you're not consistently recalibrating that nervous system and resetting it and getting it to keeping it at a specific baseline to where emotions will not carry you back to where you were when you were traumatized, then what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one day and you're not going to feel good. Something's going to come up that you're not going to be able to control, and you're going to get jolted right back into where you were and lose all that progress. So the 7-day nervous system reset helps you set that baseline so that the electric
Just making up words over here.
Yeah, we live in East Tennessee, so but the electric circuit to the brain, so how the brain is communicated with, right, to what then tells our body what to do and how to feel, right, is to a point to where it can be controlled by us. And if you want 7 exercises that you can do in under 10 minutes a day, you just create this part of your, morning routine or something that you do on a day-to-day basis. For me, it's not just something that I do on a day-to-day basis in the morning, like I might get anxiety one day and I can just go back into some of these exercises, and in under, 5-10 minutes, I can just calm down. And I think like that's why they're so powerful, because like they really are like bulletproof when it comes to so many things like anxiety, depression, I think social anxiety, which I think is a little bit different than anxiety, but overwhelm, stress, all the emotions that we get, which I truly believe, right, are up here. They're in your brain, and your brain's telling your body how to feel with the recalibrated nervous system. Game on.
So you can get that for free at resetmysystem.com/reset. We will also put that in the description and the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. We will be back. There you go. We'll be back with a future episode and interview that will blow your mind.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Cycle Breakers, where this channel is all about helping people clear out the blocks that are holding them back. We have a free gift for you, and that free gift is called our 7-day nervous system reset. The 7-day nervous system reset is where we help you calibrate your nervous system so you can go out there and control your emotions and start to take more control of your life, helping clear the blocks that are holding you back so you can start stepping into that dream life. It's absolutely free, and you can grab it down here in the description. And remember, our friends, let's dare to heal.